Hafaday. Welcome to the Guam Congress Building. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is called to order. Today's Thursday, June 20th. The time is 10:09 a.m. In compliance with the Open Government Law, notice for this public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and on the Government of Guam Public Notice portal on Thursday, June 13th and Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Notice was also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. This hearing is being live streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. Our agenda item for this morning is Bill number 297-37 COR. It's introduced by myself, Therese M. Terlaje, Sabina Flores Perez, Telo T. Taitague, Joanne M. Brown, Chris Barnett. It's an act to add a new subsection MM to Article 1, Chapter 61, Title 21, Guam Code Annotated, and to amend Section 61304B7, 61309B, and 61310 of Article 3, Chapter 61, Title 21 of the Guam Code Annotated relative to zoning. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues here with me today, Senator Roy Kinata, Sidus Masi, Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Joanne Brown, and Senator Telo Taitague. Thank you, Senators, for being here. I'm the primary sponsor of the bill, so I'll introduce it very briefly. So the bill does just a couple things. So the first one is current Guam law authorizes what is called extractive industry on an agricultural zone. And in a previous hearing, we received testimony from the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, the Office of Coastal Management Resources, that they believe this is an error in the law that is being used by Guam Land Use Commission to approve any type of extractive industry on agricultural zones. And it was their recommendation that we clarify that this should be biological extractive industry on this agricultural zones. So in Section 2 of the bill, where the current law says extractive industry, we are adding the words biological in front of extractive industry. In Section 1 of the bill, we have defined what biological extractive industry means. That's a definition. This definition was provided to us by the Office of Coastal Management Resources. And in Section 3 of the bill, we are clarifying in Sections 3 and 4 that even in an M2 heavy industrial zone where mining or quarrying is permitted, that it shall be a conditional use of the property, and therefore will conditional use is not an automatic approval. It requires that before mining or quarrying takes place on any property, that adjacent landowners are going to be notified, and that there is going to be a sign put on that property that there is an application for conditional use, so all of the public will be notified, and that the Guam Land Use Commission, before it approves it, shall have a public hearing so that any testimony can be heard by the Guam Land Use Commission. Of course, it will always also require, as all conditional uses on any property requires, a review by the Agency Review Committee, where, for example, GWA, GPA, EPA, Historic Preservation, Coastal Management, all of them, DPW will be able to review that application and point out any concerns to the Guam Land Use Commission. So that would be Sections 3 and 4 of the bill, and that is for mining or quarrying. So again, this bill is generally to just more definitively define where mining or quarrying can occur on Guam. That notice will be given for mining and quarrying because of the potentially harmful nature and risks to health from mining and quarrying, and that agricultural property, unless it's rezoned to a mining and quarrying lot, will be not will not allow mining or quarrying. It will not be left with property that is completely unsuitable for agriculture. That's a quick introduction of the bill. The fiscal note that we received from BBMR says that this is establishing the definitions, amending the conditional use, it's administrative in nature, and so there is no fiscal impact. So they're asking for a waiver of the fiscal note on this bill. All right. We see no one here present today to testify on the bill, but I will allow, I guess, questions or comments from any of the other senators who are here today. We can move Senator Kanata.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions for you. I already read the bill. It's just unfortunate we don't have anyone to testify to address the bill's nature. Thank you, though, Madam Chair.
Senator Kanata. Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to comment. Of course, as one of the co-sponsors, fully support the bill, and I'd also like to echo the sentiments of Senator Kanata, my disappointment that no one came to testify on this bill, especially given the struggles we've had in getting similar measures passed by the body. So I would just implore all the stakeholders out there who may or may not be watching this hearing to provide more testimony to the committee, preferably in support of the measure. Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker.
Sidus Masi, Senator Barnett. Senator Taitague.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Madam Chair, and I greatly appreciate this legislation that we're not going to stop when it comes to protecting our environment, and we do understand this military buildup has, made it so that we need additional resources, and using natural resources for this buildup, that it could harm, our environment and those surrounding areas that as well. So it just behooves me that we didn't get those individuals who were so adamant about the last legislation that was close to what we're trying to do here, be here to testify that was against it, to see if this is something that is doable. We did receive testimony, I'm noticing, from Department of Land Management and the University of Guam, Wiri. And, for those who are listening, Madam Chair, I mean, it is your legislation, so I'm hoping that you will read this into the record, just so that the listening audience understands this. Since there's nobody here, I think it's important. If anything, WERI is one of the agencies that we rely on for data, information, and they're the science behind everything that moves this when it comes to legislation such as this. So I appreciate if you could read that into the record, read it out for the public as you do your closing. Other than that, I of course support this measure as a co-sponsor. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Taitague. Senator Brown.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on this bill. Certainly, being a co-sponsor, I think there's very much a need for this legislation. And while we see many voices that say in the legislature they advocate for the environment, when the actual time comes to vote for the environment, it's a different story. We are starting to see, with regards to clearing and grading, and this is becoming more evident. I remember one day going out to northern Guam, the back road in Jigo, and looking to my right as I'm driving, and I just saw acres of property that was, limestone that was graded, flattened, and I don't know what the purpose was. I don't know if it's to do construction or if the main focus was to extract the limestone. And we understand there's a buildup going on, there's construction. I understand there's a lot of influence out there also knocking on our colleagues' door to not support these types of legislation because they want to be able to go out and extract the limestone without any question. And I think we need to manage. I mean, we understand we need this material for construction. I think that's why it's important. as a community, that we come to consensus on where these locations are, because existing quarries on Guam are pretty much reaching their maximum capacity. Some of them that we know of have been there since we were growing up, and we understand that. But at the same time, we're seeing permits for simple clearing and grading. You know, it was supposedly the intention for maybe construction, residential construction, and then you find that there's far more grading going on and extraction of limestone material than there should be. You know, I understand for construction in some cases, I mean, when you excavate a foundation and you're in a limestone area, you're going to have that gravel available. And of course, I mean, it's reasonable to want to reuse that elsewhere. But if the intent is actually to mine the limestone and leave that exposed, I mean, we're leaving direct access to, especially in northern Guam, to our waterlands. And we need to be very mindful of that. We need to protect, you know, this very precious gift that God has given us on this island. We don't need to look very far to see what the reality of life is for people that don't have viable water resources. And worldwide, as time is going on, you know, everybody thinks gold is like such a so valuable to have gold and diamonds and all those other things. Water, quality water, accessible water, worldwide is becoming a growing threat because of the lack of it. And it's a resource, everyone says it's renewable, but worldwide it's also depleting when you have growth in population, consumption, mismanagement, and all the challenges that are faced with that. More the reason we have to be careful, because the people that are doing the degradation and the damage ultimately are not going to be the ones to pay for addressing corrective action. And as we know, Madam Speaker, we're already seeing existing challenges with regards to our water quality now from previous activities. Of course, everyone wants to blame the military, but nowadays it's not just the military. The irony is they're spending an awful lot of money. They're spending millions and millions of dollars to try to address mitigation of the damage that they've done. But on our side of the fence, because of activities, including unregulated activities that are occurring, we're seeing the continued degradation of our drinking water, and that is a worry that we need to look and spend more time, investment, and ensure that as we address legislation, we're addressing quality legislation, because our challenge for the future, for the generations ahead of us, is how are we going to address growth and development? How do we manage that? How do we balance it? We know people need to live. We know we need to have a viable economy on this island. But at the same time, you know, I'm not all for selling the house and the kitchen sink. We need to balance, we need to manage, we need to be responsible with what we're doing. And certainly, I believe this legislation will help balance that and ensure that when they're doing clearing and grading, they're not abusing that permit and actually doing mining with the intent of quarrying limestone, which is not permitted for that purpose. So with that, Madam Speaker, I certainly rise in support of this legislation, and I hope we have some enlightenment with our other colleagues that have not co-sponsored this legislation to support it, because there is a need for it. Again, I can't understand how we go every session and we say the inifresti, and we talk about the importance of our land, our water, and our air, but when it becomes to influence and money knocking at the door, and fears and worries about electability, that all goes out the window, and that really should not be how we manage and take responsibility for the votes we make on behalf of the people. They're depending on us to do the right thing and the responsible thing. We have to ensure sustainability. We're not leaving this island in a better shape than when we came into the world, and that's a shame. I mean, that's something we should be responsible and we should be working towards and doing what we can to correct and improve upon. So with that, Madam Speaker, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to comment on this bill and certainly will rise in support of it. Thank you.
Masi, Senator Brown. And thank you for, I would like to also expand on so this is a part of a previous bill that we had put on the floor that did not pass. And so these are parts of that bill, but all of the agencies that had testified on that bill particularly supported these parts, especially separating biological extractive industry from quarrying, or defining that not to be quarrying or mining, and that the Guam Land Use Commission would have a separate hearing on any mining or quarrying. There were some gaps or they still exist. They exist right now, and that is, for example, the Department of Public Works testified that they do not move on a permit for mining or quarrying unless approved by the GLUC. So this measure would make the law consistent with that practice. Guam EPA testified that there's another gap in how operations are identified and in the permitting process wherein, quote, applicants are clearly engaged in quarrying but claim that they are not, and the land use permitting body has stated they do not know how to respond or to make the determination themselves. So, admittedly, this bill does not fully define mining or quarrying. There are mining and quarrying that is going on perfectly legally, where they are outright expressing that this is going to be a mine or a quarry, and GLUC approves it in that regard. DPW is able to permit it for that, but it's these that where they're not adequately defined, and until we are able to pass a law to adequately allow EPA and GLUC to be consistent in their application of standards for clearing and grading so that they're not turned into mining or quarrying, that's still pending. And that's very important because that's exactly, we reviewed the notices of violations that have been issued in this regard, and from 2018 to 2021, there were at least 16 for clearing and grading. Clearing and grading, excavation over areas without a grading permit, and those that looked like mining under a clearing and grading permit, including the Guam Raceway. And for that, the penalty for one violation was $125,000, which was the maximum for Smith Bridge under that. Other notices for EPA gave for lack of this clearance or the permit for other companies as well. The violations related to storm runoff and other erosion control violations, including Samsung. All of these are on EPA's website. So again, we do intend to follow this up with a more detailed bill that fully defines and regulates mining or quarrying, but in the interim, we are making sure that there is no default approvals of mining or quarrying under agricultural zones, and that all applications for mining or quarrying shall require GLUC approval. That way, neighbors will be informed, public will be informed, there is an opportunity for public comment on that, and all agency review will be made on that application. And so again, I thank my colleagues for being here today and for their interest in this. I thank WERI for their testimony, pretty much reiterating that hydrological assessments of property should be required as a part of the Guam EPA review, and that WERI is able to do these hydrological assessments and to determine risks from further action. All right. Colleagues, it looks like we have some people signing in to testify. I'm going to allow them to testify. Hi, thank you for coming. We're just about to close, but you're welcome to testify. Thank you for being here. I believe you know the senators, Taitague, Senator Brown, Senator Barnett, Senator Kanata was also here. But please proceed if you would like to testify. Just state your name for the record, please.
Half a day, my name is Desiree Timenglo Ventura, and I'm here with Pratahila Texan Sabre Tidian. I'm here to support Bill number 29737, Sizos Maasi, Senator Terlaje, Perez, Taitague, Brown, and Barnett, for reintroducing this bill, which is greatly needed in order to protect Guam's mineral resources and to ensure that our island is protected from illegal mining. Guam has a history of irresponsible mineral extraction by private developers on lands held in public trusts, such as the limestone collected and sold for profit at the Guam racetrack in Jigo. Extraction of minerals often results in significant environmental damage, including habitat destruction, soil erosion, deforestation, and contamination of soil, water, and air. The use of heavy machinery, explosives, and chemicals can disturb ecosystems and alter landscapes irreversibly. Mining operations often require large amounts of water, which can lead to depletion of local water sources and cause leaching, contaminating them with toxic substances such as mercury and lead. Air pollution is also a negative consequence that exacerbates respiratory illnesses among nearby communities and contributes to atmospheric pollution. Mining activities destroy habitats and disrupt ecosystems, leading to loss of biodiversity, as we have seen in limestone forests in the north and along our coastlines, where the quality of jungles have degraded. Species that depend on these habitats for survival can be threatened or driven to extinction, and mining often occurs in areas inhabited by indigenous communities or rural populations. Guam is no different, and these activities can disrupt traditional livelihoods, cultures, and social structures, leading to displacement and loss of cultural heritage. Mining is an inherently non-renewable activity. Extracting minerals at unsustainable rates can deplete finite resources, leading to shortages and potential conflicts over remaining deposits. Certain mining activities contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, exacerbating climate change and its associated environmental impacts. The long-term environmental and social impacts of mining persist long after the completion of mining operations. Abandoned mines continue to leach pollutants into the environment, posing ongoing risks to ecosystems and communities. Please pass Bill 29737 for the protection of Guam's precious resources. Thank you.
Sizos Maasi, Ms. Taimenglo.
Hafiday and good morning, Senators. Apologies for being late to the hearing. We thank you for introducing Bill 297-37. My name is Monica Flores, and I'm also joining Desiree Taimenglo Ventura to testify in favor of this bill. We are both members of Pertela, Texas, and Vertidian, and as our organization is committed to the protection of our natural resources that face threat to military activity, we also share those same concerns when they extend to irresponsible private and public development endeavors. And this is another iteration of previous efforts to try to protect us, to protect our island from illegal mining. It is unfortunate that past efforts did not pass by this body. We actually didn't come to testify for some of those previous actions because we sort of considered this a no-brainer and assumed that the whole body would support this measure to protect our environment, our water, and our community from irresponsible mineral extraction. We look at the island of Guam as our ancestor, literally created by our first ancestors, Puntan Zan Fotna, Fona Zan Puntan. We live on the body of our ancestors, and limestone is evidence of the life of the land. And any extraction of that reduces the integrity of our environment, as Desiree mentioned. If we simply look at Google Earth images around the racetrack in the north, for instance, just from the past few decades, with the increased activity, earth moving, and mineral extraction taking place there, we will also note the degradation of that jungle. This, of course, impacts the recharge of our sole source aquifer, exposes our sole source aquifer to contaminants, and these minerals are sold for profit that does not benefit the people of Guam. And so We really hope that this time the body supports this measure. We will be paying close attention and remember those who fail to act in a protective direction for our island and for our future. Thank you so much, Sizos Masi Senators.
Sizos Masi, I'm very grateful that you two made it to this hearing on time. Thank you for coming. If there's any questions or comments from panel or from senators for this panel? Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank you for your testimony. I know how urgent this issue is, and I thank you for showing up. Actually, the heart skipped a beat when I saw you coming through the door, so thank you very much. And if you could please rally support, because I agree, I really felt a previous measure that was introduced by the committee. I thought it was a slam dunk no-brainer too, but instead it's like some of our colleagues ended up with no brains on the issue. So just ask that you kind of keep a close eye on this and, let the body know how you feel. Thank you. Sizos Masi, Madam Speaker.
I too thank you so much for being here. When I saw you rushing in here, the door opens and slams. It's like, okay, good. We've got some representation, and everything that you said is justly so. You know, even adding more to the last time you testified on similar legislation like this, I greatly appreciate. And you know, you've always been read when it comes to the environment, and I appreciate the data and information that you always bring. You take the time to do your research, and it's obvious, and we utilize that data too when we want to speak on the floor about this, especially if the bill comes to the floor. But we also need to reach out to the public. You know, your organization has been great at being there, but I'm hoping that you can do a little bit more. I'm sorry, I'm taking this on the side in a different direction, but we need to get the public more involved about our environment. And I know it's difficult, you know, when you feel like you're alone and trying to tell people the issues about it, and people don't want to hear it because they want the easy way, the fast way, and the cheapest way to go about living on this island. And unfortunately, you can't do that if you expect our next generation to have a home to live at. If you're killing off our environment, if you're contaminating our waters. Talk about the exodus, you know. So I just wanted to encourage your organization and thank them for being around to testify and do the research. But please do more at reaching out to the public and letting them know what's going on here. It's so important. I mean, this is why we fight for you. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taitague, and to senators. And again, thank you for testifying. And you're right that I thought it was a slam dunk because all the agencies had agreed. All of the regulatory agencies tasked with reviewing the impacts to Guam from grading or quarrying or mining, all of them had agreed that we needed some other legislation to restrict quarrying and mining to certain zones, and that we needed clear rules so that all the agencies could enforce these regulations, because people have been getting away with it under the clearing and grading permits as opposed to seeking a mining or quarrying permit. And that's where the damage really occurred. And that's where the violations were found. But of course, these agencies are strapped to be tracking daily, you know, these violations. And so they really asked for our help. And so that's what we tried to do previously, was a very comprehensive, we're going to give EPA certain issues, DPW and all of these agencies, and very clear definitions for them to regulate quarrying and mining, which is also highly regulated. If you claim quarrying and mining, it's highly regulated by OSHA and other federal entities as well. But when they don't claim quarrying and mining, and they claim it's an extractive industry under an agricultural zone, or they claim that it's a clearing and grading and, you know, in guise of actual quarrying and mining, then that's where we were having those loopholes. So I very much appreciate you and the agency's support to close those loopholes and just make everyone play on the same field. Those who are actually doing quarrying and are outright about it and have applied for it in that way are clearly regulated, and you know, OSHA's been out here several times now and making sure about that, but it's those others that we wanted to close those loopholes. And I was very happy to move that forward because the agencies agreed. So this bill, however, is really the bare minimum, in my opinion. It's the bare minimum from that very extensive regulations. We still have to go through and do that. But this is bare minimum, just closing a couple of those loopholes and requiring public input, requiring agency review so that there is no, you know, mistake. However, yeah, so that last bill failed. Realtors seem to be opposed to it, saying that it was too restrictive, some realtors, and they were saying it was too restrictive and that it's going to, of course, now they say any restrictions on any development are inhibiting affordable housing. And I do not agree at all. I just think we have always welcomed development. We want responsible development. We want development that does not, that can bring benefit, but does not bring harm. And so we have seen, and it's not like we made it up. We have very clear examples. As you said, if you do Google Earth, you will see those. We will see those on the notice of violation at Guam EPA of clearing and grading in the quarrying in the guise of clearing and grading, and very little opportunity for all those other agencies to have reviewed that in advance or to stop it. So just want to thank you again. Your testimony really means a lot. There being no further questions or comments on this bill, I'm going to allow until June 27 for testimony to be received by my office at Senator Terlaje Guam at gmail.com or delivered here to the Congress building. Oh, sorry, Senator Barnett.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I don't mean to interrupt with all due respect, but I just wanted to expand on the point that you had made as searching through the email. And I think, obviously I agree that this is a no-brainer, the previous measure, and I just wanted to state for the record just some of the opposition that and in this case, this is coming from the chairman of the Guam Association of Realtors Government Affairs Committee. So this is a specific committee that's tasked with, I guess, interacting or dealing with government affairs. But the chairman's Mr. Monty McDowell, and he had written to all senators, please vote no for any quarry bill that rears its ugly head. See the attached for clarification. The Guam Association of Realtors supports a no vote on any quarry bill. So, you know, I had previously stated during the Committee on Rules meeting my uncomfortableness with special interests lobbying and ability to reach into our legislature. And I think this really, just for the record, shows where the realtors stand on this. They don't support any effort to even provide baseline rules and regulations relative to quarrying. And I think that's just a bad hill for them to be on, especially when it comes to our people. I think anytime we close off a conversation, it's not beneficial, especially when we're talking about the sanctity and the balance, really, of you know, development versus protecting and ensuring, you know, that we continue to enjoy the kind of environment we have here. And I think when you have these realtors just plunking themselves down and saying, we don't support any bill that is fiddling with quarrying rules and regulations, I mean, it's scary. It's scary that they don't even want to enter into a conversation, and they are putting on the record to all the senators to not vote for any bill. I mean, and I'm assuming that's to include this one. And so, again, you know, and I said this in the rules meeting, when it comes to, you know, the environment, I think we listen to the stakeholders and not necessarily those who may have a motive to say what they say because they're going to be turning a profit on it. So I just wanted to state that for the record, and thank you again for the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to do so.
Tzitzils Masi, Senator Barnett, yeah, again, the agencies that asked for our help because they were facing huge pressure because of the really lucrative nature of mining right now. They want where you live, Des, or your family's property, they want that side of the island, the eastern side, they want that. That is their high-grade material that pretty much is needed for the military projects. So, yeah, all the agencies that asked for our assistance to help them in their review of these projects. And yeah, it is very disturbing what Senator Barnett read, because we did receive that after, and the senators voted no on the bill, and it's pretty mind-blowing, because these agencies, and for example, Chamorro Land Trust is under great pressure to lease out their property strictly for mineral extraction and, you know, enticement of other things. But we can have, and we will need, of course, in the course of our lives, these products. But I don't see, most of the responsible developers have no problem with the rules that we had, and they had already been complying with those. It was just really more clearly defining clearing and grading so that we don't have any of those outlying exceptions or loopholes. All right, well, again, thank you. And testimony can be submitted until June 27. And this public hearing is now adjourned. Tzitzils Masi. Thank you.